And we do a live stream.
Oh, okay.
So that's why that's there. This is the laptop.
Okay.
And
So would I be able to hook up, and I didn't bring a presentation with me for
Okay.
this, but for when we do the presentation at that other facility, will I be able to plug in
Oh,
my
yeah.
laptop? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so you're gonna be doing you're not gonna be doing anything on the screen?
No.
Oh, okay.
Area, you guys are doing a real good job. Put some of them in the suit. They have a robot.
But these are all they're all safe, so
It's always,
it's not
it's always how these are.
Oh, yeah.
something like powder house. Not what it is.
Exactly.
Yes, and that's
Exactly.
But
So we
like to illustrate the people and it's close to coming off.
You guys have a color, so you won't
Like
stop.
these are like a commercial.
Because I will never be able to do this again.
I know that one thing.
Never again, I want pictures.
Out of Waller County.
And when they get in, it's like,
Yeah.
How to
Yeah, it's heavy.
Right, yeah.
and they've been there and trying to stand up like we don't.
Right.
Same thing with that young lady.
Wait a minute.
She was
Yes,
about this tall.
yes, so yes, remote,
I said, okay, kneel down.
you know, you look at even like
You don't even know it's there. It's amazing.
Okay.
So, can you tell me a little bit about the, what?
Who we are?
Yes.
Who we are? Sure. Well, this is
Right.
I'm in this center.
Okay,
And we have 25 districts that we support
Okay.
across the Harris County area, and then we pull in other districts from, like Walnut Center, and they come together to collaborate, talk about different things. We try to bring in relevant and important topics that they can share and take it back to the district, but also come into this meeting and kind of inform us what's going on, what's happening on the field, what's happening on the ground.
when I was talking to early yesterday, then I got a call from one of my friends from church, and said, hey, I heard you're gonna be over here, like, and that dude got over, he's at Goose Creek, Mr. Burton, my grandmother, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah, good.
Well, I know mine.
Well, yeah.
Goose Creek.
Yeah, real.
Yeah, I've been out in Goose Creek for a while now.
Yeah, we've been that first
So
year.
very major area and out there.
And Laura Norman's gonna be doing the training.
As far as.
Texas Safety Center, we
Okay.
go off of that
Now, was,
standard. We work with.
Were you
we have
able to get
We
online?
have a platform.
Well, I gave my
tool
test
that we
when I left.
That's based off of Texas Safety Center.
Dr. Vital.
Texas State. They have.
Yeah, on this one,
levels of data.
right, no large open, this one's a little different.
Yeah, it's just kind of curious about that, because you have different
Evaluation.
park ISDs
So
that
she'll
have
do one, and
different
then we'll have.
ways of, like, well, we need,
But let me check with Dr. Vital.
we were Campbell Middle School.
Of course, we did.
Is that Alden, or is that,
Yeah, she was really, really
I'm
good.
not sure which school.
And that's good.
But they have, I thought was neat, they have, one they've upgraded all the
Very,
cameras,
something
that
very.
are similar to the
Last name
airport.
Stacy,
They've got, a very good view of
Our
the area.
Stacy was
And then
the-
also a peer-back policy for
moving around.
And so we said, look, we're just stopping.
Yeah.
So, next week, I said,
And really, you know, the people come to us and they say, that helps out a lot.
Yeah, we'll,
Because you have kids bringing in a bunch
do
of
a
stuff,
training
talk about it in class.
in summer.
Mhm.
Just run them all again, because
Yeah,
that's
so,
another good opportunity when
Yeah,
you
it
go
just
wider.
depends. It just
Mhm.
depends. There's a
people.
global standard,
So
and then
we'll
you
do
can,
basics again, and then
here are certain basics for
probably
the
300
TA,
and 400.
but then you have a little
we'll
where,
find out some
Okay.
information
based
on
upon where you are in the district, based upon your parent population. Because
Right.
parents can be very, very
Yes.
dominated into what they want their
I love you
schools to
guys.
like, what they want to see, and
Yeah.
what they
I
want
mentioned
to
that
like
yesterday at
they're
our
so,
table talk.
safe that it looks like a prison.
Excellent, and this is Matt Langer.
Matt, keep coming. Yeah, nice to meet you.
obviously you met Miss, Ola.
That's a lot of people. How do we speak?
You messed me up.
Yeah.
01255. That's what I'm confident in.
Yeah.
She's gonna have to change it after these.
You just misremembered what you said.
As soon as he asked me, it's like, am I confident with that?
Yeah,
Or am
yeah.
I gonna, whatever? But yeah, so when it goes off, what does it look like? I
Right.
don't know. But the biggest thing that we're seeing is just the fact that people are just like, oh, they're in schools.
Right.
Oh, they're in schools. I was at a restorative discipline conference where we talk about, helping kids integrate back into school after they've had
Right.
after something bad has happened. And the guy was from Chicago, and people were talking about those things. He was just laughing. He goes, it's standard operating procedure for us. He said we don't even worry about it. And he was talking about how they do execute and do all their things. And he says it's really incident. And he said, and we just really have to deal with the issue of what is there. He says, I have kids come to school, they're coming through some zones, war zones, gang zones, and they're packing. He said, and I know they are. He said, so what I do is I stand up from the school, and he has a lockbox, and he just stands there, and when the guys walk up, they just discreetly pass what they have, he puts it in the box, he locks it. He doesn't make a big deal about it, he doesn't whatever, and then they push the lockbox in, they keep it locked all day long. At the end of the day.
Yeah, that's environmental adaptation.
Exactly. And it's situational.
Yeah.
It's situational. And that's what people need to understand. You have to adapt to your situation. You got to make it as safe as you believe your situation is to be. If they didn't do that, kids would not come to school.
Right.
So here's my question. You understand what you do in Harris County. Talk to the outreach with parents. Any involvement ever in the community? Because in my experience, the schools are never the problem. The kids are rarely the problem. The parents are the problem.
And that's one of the things, I came in 2017, and Parent University is something that me and my one of my cohorts, she does the relational side of it. And we started some Parent Universities about awareness. And I was talking to them, I want to get out there and be involved in things on the weekend, whatever we can get parents involved to understand that, what you said. Because it gets blown up in their school.
They're always the problem.
Yeah, you can get access to the information.
Right.
Access to it.
How are
You
you?
give them a piece of shit from how you did it. You give them
One step ahead of the alligators.
Right.
I think I'm either getting slower or they're getting faster. One of the two.
that away, it's not gonna be a bad thing.
Well in the district?
Some of the things that we can do.
We're just, I just got finished reviewing our
Educate them that way.
package.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that we want to do more of.
So they're meeting with the school
We
board
have,
on
we have different
Tuesday
programs
night
that they
for a
see.
workshop.
Kind of work together with.
This is what we changed, this is what we added.
After school
We
program.
added some other shooter stuff, obviously.
And they get access to grants a lot. And so we start to.
So then I got a brief
to talk about.
the board, or at the regular scheduled meeting, this is kind of the pre, so.
Some traumatized.
Well, let me tell you something that we're doing. A bunch of us went and got praise trained at Alvin, the civilian response active
I
shooter.
want to do that.
And there is a clip on from shooting at the Panama City School Board. We're gonna do like a 20 or 30 minute training with our school board on that and say, okay, when you start to feel uncomfortable and somebody it's okay. And that's the fastest way for you to get out. You don't have to wait and see what they want. Because once somebody sees that, and what he did is stood up and spray can and did this vendetta symbol and then pulled out a gun. Well, as soon as he pulled out that spray can, I don't think that's the way at all. So we're gonna do a training for them based on that.
Oh, that's.
And you can Google it and find it. There's clips. That'll impress them.
Figure out, or somebody that can touch her and pat down and make sure that's nobody. Sit down.
Because you don't understand.
And let's,
Yeah.
there's a group here that all needs to be, we've heard you,
Yeah,
but
rational minds need to come together.
Right.
The biggest thing behind all of that was, it's for like white partners, social media contact.
Yes.
And just, uninformed people talking about things they don't know.
Mhm.
It's like, why are you having this conversation?
and they all have the answer.
Oh, my God.
Well, I heard it, yeah.
You guys ready to talk? Successful.
Yeah, so you have covered a lot of things that we're trying to get our arms around, but, yeah.
Right, yeah.
These guys have heard it all.
Oh, yeah.
They've heard it all.
What do we do? How are you?
Hi, I'm Bill.
Oh, wow.
I'm on the waiting list to do the one in San Marcos on the summer. They got a waiting list.
Oh, really?
So, I said, okay, well, I'm gonna put me on the waiting list.
Well, at least
Yeah.
I got into the one in Corpus Christi, the 3-day one that they do. Last year, I tried too late and didn't make it, so I'm going to that one this year. But it's a good training. It's very good.
Yeah, they sent all our administrators over this past summer, over to Channelview, when Channelview did their big one. They went over there, but I wasn't on board at that point, so.
So you're from out of the Seattle area or down?
Well, that's where I'm from. Well, I grew up in Texas, but I was a cop up there.
So you're used to this weather then?
Yes, yeah.
Last week it's just been
Yeah.
awful.
Last
Yeah.
week, 6 months it's rained up.
But that's why I came down here, yeah.
Bobby, good to meet you. Dickens.
I am Bill.
I am Linda Wall. Nice to meet you.
Which one?
Amy.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just,
Yeah.
wait, that's, is that near Brazoria?
No, we're in between Fort Bend and HIC.
Okay.
Our friends will, our superintendent's
Okay.
moving from there to.
Yeah, just a training down there, so.
She's new.
Me going way. Brazoria County.
Yeah.
So we'll bring them on this building.
Yeah, it's further south.
Uh-huh.
Well, I know the superintendent, David Badroll, he is a great guy. We have a wonderful representative. Dr. Greg Bauman is out there. Yeah, wait till August.
So,
It's
all these things
not
are
gonna be
gonna
breeze.
touch them, you
Yeah,
wanna see what C4 feels like?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, and so these are all,
But,
different types of things and people that have, I mean, this is an example.
Surprised you found
C4
land
is real close to what that stuff feels like. The only difference is
Well-
that it doesn't have any RT activity. It's close to the, it's different than what you see in the.
well, then I
movie.
get that.
And that's one of the,
Right on Pier Street.
yeah, exactly, yeah. It's really sticky and, so that's a,
Wow.
and this is another way, sheet explosive. This is a big part of, that's like.
Hey,
Hello,
how are you?
Good to see you.
You don't have access to it.
Morning, how are you? Okay, HIC.
Oh, yeah.
So they said by Allison, if you're gonna barbecue something, well, 2,000 years from now, it's like 5 miles out of the way.
My point is, I think it's worth a shot.
Yeah, exactly. Small things that they can
And they're doing cool kinds of projects downstream to get the water to go out and to
Burns are making fat.
That's how you know, it's city planners, mine was lots of sugar on sports getting tons of on board. Years ago, they never did plans.
Interesting, very interesting, thank you.
It's amazing how that happens.
Feel?
Yeah. Well, I think they're on board.
Let me see, I can see, your house didn't flood, yours did. Yeah. Coded for it. You can kind of tell.
I think they're fully on board now.
Did y'all flood in 2001 when Allison came through?
Parts of the area did, but not like we did this last time.
This
It's
was-
never been like that before.
This was our second time, because they opened up the dam to let the water, they didn't want to flood out Kingwood.
Right.
So
Oh, we
were
flooded, yeah.
We were
Oh, yeah.
downstream and we got
Right.
drowned.
That happened to Columbia too, down on the other side.
Yeah, we're on the San Jacinto, so when Lake Conroe released all that water, that's what, it was like somebody flushed a toilet and the water came
Oh,
only
yeah.
6 feet.
And in San Jacinto, that goes river out there, but that's a beautiful place to live. I tell you, anyone can water.
start decorating things.
We have good friends.
Good front
that we
ones.
used to go visit all the time. It's just beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I've got little sandbars for that normal place.
Mhm.
Go down and fish and do whatever. It's not so good when you're doing it from the couch.
Yeah, sometimes they work for the property. It's like, don't want it.
I wonder if everybody. We always do something for there's a big group up there. And I went, yeah, that's not us. Actually looked at my calendar.
Yeah, I went, just out of habit, went in the elevator, punched the button, wasn't even thinking. Wait a minute, I'm supposed to go downstairs, go inside.
How's it going?
Good, man, all right, sir?
It's all right. Good to see you, right? Yeah. How about you?
Hi, Bill Shockley. Nice meeting you. Yes.
Right. Well, this is a good night.
Oh, yes.
Overwork. Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Glen Park Drive.
Okay.
Morning.
There he is.
Other than the other side.
Just my family. Oh, really? No, he's like, I've got my dad, he's in College Station. But yeah, there's lots of Shockleys around. I was kind of surprised about that. But I was looking for my tax records and it was like, oh, there's a lot of Shockleys.
All right, yeah, well then we already informed.
Oh, really? Excellent. Hi. Hi, Bill Shockley.
I'd sit next to you.
Good to you.
Hey, thanks for that info.
Hi,
Yeah,
Bill
we heard the
Shockley.
other
Hey,
day.
nice meeting you. Yeah.
Hey, what'd you think of the training?
Yeah. So, hi, Bill Shockley. Nice meeting you.
Our high school and our 18 next year. You gotta get on the schedule.
Thank you.
Yeah, I said.
Well, you know, I might go just
I know. Yeah, I was a compliment. Yeah, I know. I was a compliment in the Seattle area. Holy court. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yes, so yeah, I work over at the airport, so real close. And
district level.
oh yeah, so our main job is, and I'll explain that later on, is like we're all bomb techs. Either he was a army, I was a bomb tech with
Is this a good
the
spot?
Department of
All right.
Defense.
Gotcha.
So we work as a
I didn't get far as the BPACK material.
Oh,
That we use for
okay.
and they have a mapping program.
Okay.
And he says that, that they have
So we
the
just
ability.
recently
Sure.
doing
So
this
I
type
can
of
let you.
That'd be great.
Okay.
That'd be great. So what we're doing is we're taking,
prevention.
so we've partitioned, labeled the doors, labeled the zones, and we're creating them digitally and verifying with the school, and then we're handing them, and then we're sending them digitally to the first responders so they can put them in their MDTs.
Oh, okay.
But what we realized was schematic is fine, drawing, but if you do a picture, fire when they can see up top, and they can see some of the roads which we're kind of missing. That'll help them to say, where do we put the truck in? If the fire's on this side, how do we get in there? And so we were like, well, we need to put in aerials. So what our GIS person is doing is taking aerials and then superimposing the room layout over it. And so when you're looking at it, you're seeing the rooms, but the outside you're seeing the truck. And we don't have, for our US high schools and the ag center, we don't have good aerials.
Okay.
And Google is way behind in that area.
Yeah, I know. I said, I know they can Google.
Right, oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And there's two things now, our GIS reps, when you take it off Google, there's a quality thing, sometimes, and then of course Google hasn't kept up with our PATO and our ag center, so.
Well, I will get Rod to call you.
Okay, that's fine, that's great, anything's good. Because like you said, even if we had to,
Sorry to hear about you.
we might, it might just be permissionless,
sorry about
to
you.
then get some local guy with a drone, because that's the FAA regulations.
Right.
We know a guy with a drone, but he doesn't have an FAA.
Yes, okay, and they may have a way into it.
Exactly.
Okay, then I'll connect.
Thank you, appreciate the help.
I need so much, but I won't beg.
I mean, as far as safety.
Yeah, Gene, this one's
How are you? I'm Bob Case, HISD.
Okay, if you will find your places, there'll be some people straggling in, but in the essence of time, we're gonna go ahead and get started. I wanna thank you for coming today. And this is our third meeting of the year, our quarterly ops meeting, and as you know, the idea behind it is to give you an opportunity to come together. You're very busy people. It's not often that you can pull away and have a chance to kind of collaborate with one another. So these ops meetings have been designed to do that. If you look at your folder real quickly, I want to bring your attention to the agenda for today. And we have some very special guests here today that we are so pleased to have them with us. They're experts in their field. If you did not know it, bomb threats are on the rise again for some reason. We noticed from the Texas School Safety Center that they're starting to offer training on bomb threats, so we thought we'd get in, try to get out in front of it and bring some tremendous experts here with me today. So you can see where we're going. They're going to be presenting for about 45 minutes. Then we're going to do the share around so that we can kind of see what best practices are going on in other districts. Lunch will be coming, a great lunch today, and then we're going to close you out and get you out of here by 12 o'clock. On the left-hand side are some handouts. If you look at the flyers that we have, I'm going to let Mr. Wallaby come up and talk about those, about the bomb threat training. This is a free training provided by our very good friends from FEMA, and we appreciate them. Behind that is our restorative practices coordinated training. We have a school climate and culture specialist that works with campuses to help them implement restorative practice, which is an intentional way of building relationship with students. So without further ado, I want to call up my co-host today, Ms. Janice Wallaby.
Oh, I got a title.
Yes, you did.
Big check for that, too.
Yeah, I hope so. Thank you all for coming out, and we really appreciate you supporting the emergency ops meeting. And like Mr. Burley said, we are looking at bringing relevant solutions into the school for safe and secure schools. We're looking at making sure that we're touching topics that are important. You guys are more familiar than anybody else how safety has changed. The safety job has changed in schools. The type of information we're spreading now is a little bit more intense than it has been in the past. But with that, awareness is key, prevention is key, and those are the two things that when I saw some training come out from the FEMA group about bomb threats, I thought that would be interesting to bring into our group and to expose you at a level of experience and skill and awareness about what that is. So we came up with a series of trainings that FEMA is going to bring, starting on March 28th, bombing prevention awareness, and that will be taught by Mr. Shockley and the protective measures course as well. Those are two that are going to, one's going to be on March 28th, the other's going to be April the 11th. And then we'll get more in depth talking about the management planning of bomb threats, and then looking at IEDs. What intrigues me about bombs is the technology, because it's ever changing, and awareness of how it's changing is important for us to know about. So that is what we're wanting to bring, awareness and skills and understanding what's out there. Mr. Shockley, Bill Shockley, is going to be our guest today. Just kind of overview so you get a good sense for what you would be signing up for these courses. He calls himself a sidekick, but if I was on bomb threat, he will be my sidekick. He's my skilled partner. Matthew Wagner is also here to provide some support in that as well. You will be getting from me, because I know on the flyers that we've been sending out is to contact me for enrollment. I'm vetting out the enrollment process because you'll be enrolling through FEMA, not through our workshop management system. And so you'll be getting an email from me after this session with those directions. And then I also will be blasting out through Constant Contact marketing information, letting people know how they can get into the course. So the course is throughout from March all the way through June. So I'm not going to delay it anymore because they have some show and tell. They have a lot of information to give to us. So I'm going to present Bill and
Actually, Bill's my guru, so if I could just take 2 minutes, I'd appreciate that. First of all, thank you for having us out here. My name is Matt Langer. This is Bill Shockley. We both work with TSA. What a lot of people don't know about TSA is TSA employs more bomb techs, former bomb techs, candidly, than any other program except the DOE. And they did that because when they stood up all the screening and they bought all this equipment and they were screening for explosives. And one of the challenges was, what next? Right? That's always the question we have to ask, isn't it? Right? Okay, so we put all this in place, and then what? Well, we were the answer, and then what? So when they generate these alarms they can't resolve, when they have substances come in they don't know what to do with, that's where we come in. Sidebar a little bit, Office of Bombing Prevention continues to develop curriculum and offer it, and they don't have the staffing to really support it and to reach out. And they found 450 bomb techs sitting around the airports, right, throughout the country, and they've tapped us. And that's where Bill comes into play. He's one of, well, currently my only certified teacher through Office of Bombing Prevention. Currently 2 classes he can teach. We're working on getting more and more instructors, more classes. And he can tell you really in detail what that is. But that's who we are, that's what we do, where we're coming from. These programs are fantastic, they're no charge. Of course, we don't have facilities, so we beg and borrow for facilities. You get continuing education credits for those that need them. It's a lot of fantastic stuff. I really just want to sit up here, say good morning, thank you for having us, introduce you, and Bill can use his expertise and really explain what it is we can offer.
Right. Well, thank you. And a little bit about me. So I was a cop up in the Seattle area. I worked for Federal Way, or Felony Way as we called it, police. It's just kind of south of Seattle. And I was in major crimes, and then got into the bomb disposal unit as well. And so I enjoyed the bomb part of it. I enjoyed the bomb squad. The federal jobs came open. TSA, I like to explain, we started hiring bomb techs because what would happen at the checkpoint is somebody comes through with a bag of powder and it alarms for explosives or just looks strange on the x-ray, so the procedure at the time is to call cops. Well, you know, the patrol guy goes out there and looks at it and says, I don't know what that is. So evacuate and call the bomb squad. And so TSA, as a cost-saving measure to the airlines, I learned that this is 2008, it was about $10,000 a minute for any type of shutdown because the cost cascade across the country when a flight can't take off from here or whatever. So I don't know what it is now, you know, today's dollars, but it's very expensive. So TSA hired people with our experience to get in there, and we can try to figure things out and really kind of address the risk issue for the federal security director as far as can I allow this through or not? And so that's kind of where our expertise are right here. And all these things right here are all on Earth. Y'all are welcome to look at them and play with them. Just, you know, mysterious white powder, who knows what it is? So, I mean, that's one of the things. These are a sheet explosive. Like I said, these are all inert, but it gives you an idea of the different ways that explosives can present themselves. I mean, some of that can look like a fruit roll-up or whatever. Ammonium nitrate. This is not ammonium nitrate, but it is that type of prill form. To me, that's one of the concerns that I have as far as ammonium nitrate is everywhere. We were just discussing, I can go over to Academy and go buy tannerite. That's ammonium nitrate, and it comes with a little metal in there, and aluminum powders, some zirconium, and magnesium. I mix that together. I now have an explosive, a very sensitive explosive, by the way. Or let's say I don't want to go to Academy, I'll just go buy a cold pack. And this is one of the things that I'll address in the bombing prevention awareness class. Cold packs usually have ammonium nitrate in them as well. Dynamite. Now, some of these are the more commercial explosives. Typically, you're not going to, somebody's going to have to steal these or find them. We have some det cord. So detonating cord, people think it's a fuse, but really it has like just a little bit of explosive inside of there, and it detonates. And they work real well. TNT is going to be a hard cast explosive, but you could also break it up. This is some C4. Again, this is all inert, so it doesn't have the RDX, which is the chemical that makes it explode. But it gives you a chance to kind of feel what it's like. Because because a lot of times you see it in the movies, and it's like, oh, they put on their C4, so you know what it's supposed to look like. And then we've just, I just grabbed a couple things to show you, like, here's like just a very simple initiation system that, you know, we have a battery right here, a detonator, and some sort of timing thing. We call it a 555 timer. But, and then here's a commercial detonator. These are all inert. This would be the more concerning part for me as far as it's very sensitive to heat, shock, friction. But in our class, one of the things we'll talk about is with the bombing prevention, we talk about what is an IED? We talk about explosive and explosive effects and the terrorist attack cycle. So looking back, and now when we use a case study, we look at Timothy McVeigh. What did he do? And we start looking at the different things. We do find some similarities as far as what people are doing, as far as their planning, how do they decide what target they want to reach, and why? Okay, what message are they trying to send? And when is the best time to, as far as when are we going to have the best chance of stopping some attack like that? And then also addressing what's suspicious and what's an unintended bag or what's suspicious. I mean, my bag right here, is it unattended? Is it suspicious? And so we discuss that as well. The bombing prevention awareness class. And then as far as I refer to my notes for the protective measures course, it really builds upon that with, okay, now that you understand more about explosives and what they can do, then, you know, how do you identify risk? And what are the risks? And then, so what type of protective measures are you going to establish to mitigate that risk? And then, okay, what about special events? And some of that's also just thinking about the, I call it physical security light, as far as thinking about, hey, how do we keep people away, or how do we keep that blast further out, as far as a standoff there. I know that you all have a lot of questions about bomb threats. So here's, Matt talked a little bit about the relationship we have with Office of Bombing Prevention. So they tapped us and they certified me that I can teach about those two classes right now, but I can't really speak on their behalf as far as bomb threats because they have a whole course on that. And so I'm kind of limited there because I have to serve both of my masters as far as TSA and working for them, and also the Office of Bombing Prevention. But that's pretty much what I have. What questions can I answer?
So I have a question on it. So in our school district, KISD, we have our police department, which
Yes.
I think there's an aspect that we want to train them in one fashion.
Right.
In addition to that, I lead up a safety task force of representatives from all the schools, which then we want to teach them in a different manner.
Right.
Would that be possible, or is it two separate? Is it these individual classes separately, or is it we have to make up something specific to those type of audiences?
As far as the safety, because we could do different, this class, it really is geared for law enforcement,
Okay.
I think, as far as the bombing prevention. And we were talking briefly up there. One aspect of it is as far as we look at homemade explosives, and it's like, what kind of precursors? And from the cop mentality, I think, hey, if I'm tossing a trunk or if I'm looking at something, how do I determine, hey, is this drug related, or is this maybe
Right.
an explosive material, and that type of thing.
Right. So off the top of my head, I would think, and I don't know if it would be you or
Yeah.
somebody else, to invite to our district for a day.
Sure.
And the majority of the day would be the law enforcement, because they would be the responding.
Right.
And like you said, come up, here's a bag of something, make a decision.
Yeah.
And then for the staff, it would just be more of what to recognize as a potential threat, how to identify it, and then from there it would just be evacuation. So it'd be less of a class for them, it's more just informational for them.
Right, so this bombing prevention awareness class, it really does kind of address as far as homemade explosives, and we talk about that, and I've got some videos that also address, so you have an idea of, hey, what does this do? And as far as, and also just some precursors. So I think a lot of times people don't think about different, like ammonium nitrate, or cold packs. If I see a kid with a bunch of cold packs, like,
Yeah.
oh, wait a minute, you know, or is this something where, like, if I'm maybe in the athletic area, do I have lots of cold packs in there? Could somebody have access to that? I mean, it's easy to bring those, and they obviously have a legitimate purpose, but if I'm a bad guy, I'm just gonna cut the top off, take that little bag of water, and now I've got ammonium nitrate. I can mix that, like I was explaining earlier, it's like, the way I think about explosives, I'm real simple, as far as, I need an oxidizer and a fuel, and ammonium nitrate's my oxidizer. Well, the fuel is anything that burns and makes me fat. Well, there's lots of things that make me fat, like sugar makes me fat, and so I can mix sugar with that, and now I have an explosive, and or you know, paper or whatever. So making those things. So that's one of the things we will talk about in the homemade explosive part of it.
Can I follow up on that? So they're 8 hour. The way they're designed, they're 8 hours, but they're in modules. So to further on that. Can they be taught, does it need to be taught in the 8 hour block, or are just sections or modules available, right? So if I just want a basic, we call them HIAS, components awareness, right? Just to show folks what we're up against. Can we teach that hour block independently?
Yeah, we could. And so the way it works is that TSA has picked up the cost of the class, and that's why there's no cost to. And so really, it turns out to like $8 per student, and that's just for the materials and everything else. But if we were to do the individual class, it's the same. Maybe if we did like one class, like do the law enforcement and do the whole thing so everybody gets credit. And if you want people in that other module, we could just kind of get them to come in and they could see, hey, this, yeah, their portion of it as well.
That'd be great. Definitely talk to y'all about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is straight to you all. There's no other agency we have to coordinate with. Go.
You're welcome to coordinate through the physical security advisors or straight through the. There's no difference to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can reach out to me, and I'll Rick Carey, he's one of the physical security advisors for the area. So he works for Department of Homeland Security. I will just CC him as well. So they bring other things to the table as well.
So what is your ideal class size for that?
That's great. So the bombing prevention awareness, it can be a larger class if you wish, because it's more me getting up and talking and looking at videos. Ideally, I think 25, 30 people is great, but that can be a much larger class if you'd like. The preventive measures class, probably 25 would be ideal, 25 to 30. Because there is a group activity, or several group activities, where you're working together at your tables, try to figure out.
Well, I'm kind of in the same boat that he is. We've got Galveston County Sheriff's deputies as SLOs, and there's several districts, and we probably have maybe 80 law enforcement. They're all, and so could you do something of that size? You didn't have to do multiple ones and we could do it all at once, or would you prefer it to be broken up?
For the bombing prevention awareness course, and that would really is kind of a good foundation, and then we could build on that with the preventive measures course. We could do maybe several of those. And I did reach out to one of the classes I did recently, a guy from the Port of Galveston Police. He was there, and so he's also interested in hosting a class down there, so that we may be able to do one and reach out to quite a few people down there as well.
And that was one of the things that we were trying to get understanding from you guys and how we did it, because we started doing the regional, Mr. Pearl, we started doing the regional education deal where we're moving to different areas of the district of Harris County, where we're bringing in sources like that so we can get them closer to you, get a group of people together. Because I also think it works district by district, but it also feeds off of the districts and the other districts. That collaboration is important as well. So however we want to work it, we can also.
Well, I was thinking, because I know like Galveston, some people may not want to, or they may not be able to release their people to come all the way up there.
Right, and that's why we're looking at
and we're kind of midway.
Yes.
We do have rooms where we could host a larger group.
So we can work that.
Yeah.
By the way, I want to appreciate Brian and Galena Park. We did a lunch and learn in Pasadena. They were very gracious to us so that we could kind of get that regional feel. And Brian and Galena Park said they would do the next one. I'd like to do one. I would really like to do one after the legislative session, because we always know that there may be something coming out of the legislative session. So I'm planning that. I had talked with Galena Park to get the date down, but that's another idea to bring that closer to you so that those districts in that area, you know, we could do something like that, you know, get north side up here so that people don't have to come all the way to that south side to get it. So I'm real open to working with you so we can get this information to you. Bill, one of the things that, you know, coming from the campus level, that we see a lot of, that I saw a lot of as an administrator, you got kids calling in bomb threats, or you got some weird Harold calling in a bomb threat. And one of the questions we ask on our audits is, you know, how do you help your staff to be aware of suspicious packages and things of that nature? You know, what is your procedure that you have in place for your staff if they do see something suspicious? Do you have any thoughts on that? Will you touch on that in some of these trainings so that the leaders here, when they go back, and those people who come to the table, will they have a sense of, in this bombing prevention awareness course, of how to you know, be preventative? Our goal is we want to prevent it from happening, because a bomb threat is very disruptive, as you know. It just throws off the whole day. And you got kids outside, you know, and it's, so how can, you know, will that be kind of addressed in some of this?
So as far as the threat goes, that's going to be a separate class, and I think you have a bomb threat management course, and that's taught by, they'll bring somebody from the Office of Bombing Prevention to teach on that. I will address a little bit in the bombing prevention awareness course. We talk about, and we deal with this quite a bit at the airport as far as an unattended bag, or is it more of a threat? And I mean, like these things right here. I mean, well, it seemed like they have a place. It's logical to me. You know, maybe it doesn't appear suspicious, but you know, is the bag hidden or something? Is this, you know, is this something that's unusual? You know, now it's a, you know, okay, how do I want to escalate that? And so, and then a lot of that really comes back to the different jurisdiction, or, you know, it's like, what are your procedures? And at the airport, give you an example, if it's an unattended bag, typically they're going to call the airport security, and they're going to probably call the cops, and then they're going to run the dog by it, and then treat it, okay, well, dog did not alert, then I'm going to go search it now, and do it that way. So, but that's the procedures that the airport has come up with, and that's
I think that would be helpful if from an expert standpoint, for them to hear, you know, what are best practices out there. Because one of the things, if a bomb threat's called in, it typically comes through the receptionist. And so, you know, we try to, you know, will there be, you know, measures that advise to them that says, you know, in training my people who get a call, what are the things I should be trying to do? You know, if I get a call, you know, what are some things that we can do to be, maybe get out in front of it? You know, we may be able to, you know, help first responders get a sense of where to look.
Right.
Those kind of things we should.
From my, well, again, that goes back to the bomb threat manager, but I can tell you from my bomb tech experience, as far as when I was a cop, I liked when people used a checklist, where they had a sheet right there, they knew the questions, and they would ask them different, but then you have an idea of, okay, what are they saying? Just a different, whatever you're getting, that you can draw out of that person. The more information you get.
Noise in the background.
Yeah, it helps you to make a decision as far as, okay, how do we want to treat this?
If we were starting,
Go ahead.
if we were starting fresh cold to develop a checklist like you just mentioned,
Right.
which class would you say would apply and give you the most information to establish such a checklist?
So I think that there's actually checklists that are already out there, and in fact, I bet Office of Bombing Prevention is going to have one on there. But there's,
and the reason I'm saying that is it's awesome that they're hosting, but I think part of that class would be that we would discuss that, take a example that's already made, tailor into specific to education environment, and then now HCDE has a checklist that's available for everybody to.
Yeah, and really that's our goal, because these practitioners have come here at the school level. So our focus is, in the school setting, how can we, you know, get out in front of this? And, you know, how can we train our people to be better prepared and possibly, get out in front of this. And so, I'm hopeful that as I work with you guys, we can make sure that we customize this so that the campuses will, that we transfer the knowledge to a campus setting so that they can go back and have a, pretty good idea of what to do as far as training.
And this is, now Rick Carey would love to have been here. I talked to him earlier, but he's in a briefing right now that he was able to get away from. So this is something I will reach out to him as well and say, hey, this is one of the concerns as far as either a checklist or developing a checklist. And so he may be able to provide that.
Yeah, Rick is with the Department of Homeland Security that does bombing prevention.
So let me throw something out. I'm sorry to jump in here. You asked a very good question, right? So here's what we can't teach. I'm just gonna be honest with you. What's credible? You get a threat. Is it credible? I can't teach that. I can't. Okay. But here's my question to everybody in this room. What's a bomb? Describe a bomb to me, sir.
Anything that can blow up, not sure.
What's it look like in your mind?
Well, because of my background, I know it could be like a rock or.
So we got a rock over here, right? Somebody else, did anybody else picture a rock? I'm sorry to put you on the spot. Thanks for playing with it. Did anybody else, when I said bomb, did anybody else picture a rock? Okay, so that's what this course can do, to maybe better answer your question. When you talk about preparing, listen, we're dealing with educators, we're dealing with students. Look, I know I'm not the only one in the room with kids, and I will tell you, for a matter of fact, my kids are way smarter than me. Way smarter than me. They YouTube so much faster than I do. I'm one finger punching on the keyboard, and they already have 6 bombs on YouTube, right? It's a fact, right? So that's what we're up against. We're up against folks who've made a career of educating and maybe building children, and now we're asking them to go out and look for bombs. What are they looking for? What are they looking for? That's what the BPACK can teach you, right? So there are a lot of administrative questions that are going to come up that look, folks, we're going to leave you dry, and you're going to leave it going, that was 8 hours, what did I do that for? Honest conversation, right? But I will tell you this. If you ask a bomb tech what this is, they're going to say, initiator, don't touch it. You ask an AC repairman, he's going to say, that's a thermostat.
Yeah.
Right? You ask campus administrator who's taking the phone call, what is this? Maybe. Maybe, right? I don't know, it's a little thing with wires, right? And that's a very accurate description. I'm not making fun of you, but that's what it is, right?
They would carry it down the hallway.
Everybody know what this is, right?
Science lab.
Right? And one of the procedures we learned, and I'm not going to burden you with it, is, but if this was live, I couldn't be touching it right now. Because you ever get some static discharge and shock your kids or your spouse because it's running, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's enough to send this on. That's what the BPACK can offer you. And I'm sorry to jump in, but I'm just kind of sitting here looking at these questions from a different perspective. There's administrative tasks, and we were talking earlier, there's always the parent syndrome, right? Like there's so many challenges faced in what y'all do every day that we can't address. But awareness, right? Showing administrators, hey, yeah, you see this, and the first thing you thought was drugs, and now you just drug ammonium nitrate into the principal's office and put it on her desk or his desk and said, hey, that was drugs. Okay, well now you have a live explosive there, right? So it's a talking point, it's an awareness point, it's a learning point. This is, you said starting from the beginning, this is 101.
Yep.
Right? It's a conversation starter, and it's an 8-hour conversation, but it's a conversation starter. Really is I think, did I hit that right?
No, I think you're right. And I think you're absolutely right. I think it's a good way to think about it, is that you'll probably leave there with more questions as far as, because one of the things we'll expose to you is, what does a bomb look like? And your experience with artillery is like, your view is a lot different. And then, when you leave the BPACK, you'll think, well, shoot, it could be a coffee cup, or it could be in a soda can, or...
And when you do get that bomb threat, maybe you're looking at things a little bit differently.
Right.
And if you were wrong in your assessment of whether it was credible or not, at least you get a second chance, because now you see something that wouldn't have been suspicious before, but it is.
Yeah.
Do you get into part of it with kids, peer pressure? We've read several case studies where, certain types of kids may be more inclined than others to kind of get involved in something like this. Maybe they're getting bullied. Maybe, the kid in Santa Fe, for example, he was he was an aberration because he was actually engaged in football and some other activities, and he planted pipe bombs in different places, but they didn't go off of that kind of thing. Will there be some information on maybe a profile, or will there be any, information shared on how educators or practitioners can be, looking out for certain, are there certain type of people that lend themselves to doing stuff?
We don't really get into a profile. We do talk about some behaviors because it's, and that's sort of, I guess we do address a little bit as far as, and more of like dealing with people as far as, if one of the examples is like a welder. You see a person that's got their welding attire, they have a welding torch, well, that's a welder. It's when their signature doesn't match their profile and say something else is, wait, something's awry there, something's not matching up, and now maybe I'm taking more of an interest in it. And I think that's one of the things that we do talk about a little bit as far as it's like there's something just not adding up with this person, and then it's making the decision, no, I need to go talk to him instead of, well, I'll just let it kind of play out. And but it's kind of going back to the Homeland Security thing as far as if you see something, say something, but it's acting upon that. And I think one of the things I was reading about in the news recently was a plot in New York area where it was 2 adults and a high school kid that were targeting a Muslim-centered area. And it was, this kid made a comment at school, and it's like something about, doesn't he look like a active shooter or something like that. Somebody followed up with it, and the whole thing came unraveled. And just at least or whatever, in the news article, search warrants on the kid's house, that's where they find the bombing materials and everything else. But it was just the idea that somebody was talking about it and people acted upon it.
Okay, forgive the pun,
No.
but I'm glad we're having this conversation because I want to ignite conversation about this, right?
Yes.
To see how we can, as HCDE, work together with you. I've heard a lot of great things, and I was jotting down where I think we're going, looking at how we can bring this into the campus, and it's an awareness. Understand
Right.
These first 2 things are clearly awareness, opportunities, and how that might look at a campus. Like if it's modular, this would be great to have your staff sit in, and your whole police force sit in for the entire thing, and then your staff sit in on these modules. So that's one takeaway that I got from that. Another takeaway that I got from it is being able to coordinate it, and I would be willing to do that with districts and look at a time frame. I'm looking at the west side, the south side, the northwest side. We're having different areas where we can get with Dickinson, and they're going to host it, but we can pull together the information and coordinate what it would look like and talk to you a little bit and make sure that we're available to talk to you a little bit more and flush out what that curriculum would look like or what that rollout would look like. And that's an offer that we can give from the center. And then as we get more into it, because the next phase after Mr. Shockley's 2 courses, the next course is bomb threat management planning.
Right.
And that's a lot of what to do as far as planning for the threat.
Right.
And that is that separate group, and we spoke with originally Mr. Maha.
Yeah, Mike Maka and.
Well, he goes Maka, I say Maha.
I'm not sure.
He said if you're close to me, Bill, you can say Maha. But Mr. Maka brings in that aspect of it. And so they weren't able to be here. They had a meeting somewhere else. So that's what I believe we can offer from HCDE, is to kind of bring that together, because you guys have a lot of things on your plate, and this is something from a threat assessment thing that we want to take further. And we want to get it deeper, and we want to bring in subject matter experts, and we want to make sure it's relevant to what you want to hear in the districts. So if we could I know we have some other things on the agenda once we finish here, but I'm open to talk to you guys that have since we got the conversation started as to where the next steps that we can do on that.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Okay, we are ahead of schedule, and we had him going until 11 o'clock. I want to do a quick table talk with you. Okay, we got about 15 minutes, and so I need you in 4 groups. 4 groups, please. 4 groups. We're going to do a quick little table talk and kind of have you exercise your brain a little bit. Okay, so give me 4 groups. Everybody, I need 4 groups. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you guys are kind of long range, but that'll work. That'll be okay. Let's see what they are. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to give you a tabletop exercise for you to discuss at your table. Then I'm going to come around and allow you to kind of talk about what actions you took and why you took them. Mr. Shockley, I appreciate you, sir.
Oh, thank you.
And let's kind of see what we got here. I got a little activity to soak up your time here a little bit, but it'll be really, really good. All right, here we go. And we got one more.
I don't want to interrupt you. We're going to get out of here. Does anybody need a point of contact other than what you already have?
Okay, if you will, at your table, choose a spokesperson and someone to record. And around 11 o'clock, we're going to give you a chance to share out. Okay, let's see. So, your assignment is, take this tabletop, discuss it at your table, and tell me what actions you would take to deal with this particular emergency response situation. Choose a person to record your thoughts, and then choose a person to be your spokesperson. Okay, we have 15 minutes.
As a member, you are walking the halls of the school and you hear something from the main office. As you get closer, you see a man arguing with the staff. Just as you're getting ready to get to it, the man turns and walks away from the office toward the classroom. You try to find out what he means, but he ignores you and keeps talking. You know that you are not familiar with the man in question, and he does not have a bit of respect. List your actions.
See if I have some.
We have a very similar. Whatever system you got, that's what he thinks cards, whatever that is, regardless of what you have in school. They're completely different.
I call them the first true responders. Because based on what they did to us, that's how we're going for.
Because you want to create an issue in the classroom where people start.
Maybe it's like they're going to give you a description of that, that's already left, what the opposite direction.
We offer a whole separate process for front office and for safety. Whatever.
Yeah. You want it? So, you want it to say on YouTube or not?
If she didn't send it out, then I think we should save it, so we can just now say pre-recorded.
I can sit across the field. And everywhere.
We're not by ourselves.
No,
we know.
we just built me a school with almost all of them.
Oh, really?
Give a quick bit on BPACK, environmental realities. I'm not
outside of all, we just started with the
So what happens, they put it in and charge for it, and then we have to figure out how to get it off.
Let's go, I'm gonna drive us back to task. I mean, what we know is, you heard something loud, you heard an argument, and he's ignoring. So that's the trick.
He's walking towards us.
Right. He's ignoring the process.
Which at that point, it's crossing.
If we can save it to you.
Yeah, we're looking at mutual aid.
Yeah, sure.
AT&T
We think, we don't know. I mean,
So
we don't know if they told him going down the hall and this was a jerk.
Since we had to be.
We're gonna send them, we have to, we had a situation where we AT&T's arguing with the store, the switch was opens. I mean, apparently not in the way of the door.
Yeah, well,
Because it says entry that is controlled, trespass.
So the question is, I mean, we think he's a threat, we're going to, so I would just mark it down, absolutely. We can sort it all out later, that's right. That's what I'm sort of saying, that's my issue. And then the other things are gonna follow, you know, that's right, the principal's gonna want to know why. You know, your officers are gonna notify that, you know, I come with this and then, I'm just gonna, I would do one, I would probably do 2, 3 of that in order for
We're
me.
gonna use the county.
Possible
That's our
action,
place.
activate the intruder alarm or panic
They're right
button,
down the street.
notify the police, notify
Keep these
the
guns.
attempt to intervene with the man a second time, follow the man.
I mean, neither of those do physical, and that goes straight to the police. Once you've eliminated all the ability to less physical gravity, then you're at the police already.
I'm gonna err on the side of caution, we all agree to that.
We'll bring them.
That's our policy, enforcing it's a whole other exactly, but that is.
We call it a highly recommended, because we got the high school, so we do this, what about this class? There's gonna be exceptions. But you understand, you need a whole system of that. Unless they have a good reason.
Or should be locked with a public classes full and.
Absolutely, that's the other one. When you leave the room, you
And we bring them, we get, you know, get distraction, we have to put a key in. No, when you're about to push through the door, you get a distraction, whether you have a key or not.
The amount of fights on campus are going down. They're still looking at it. Doing it on property.
But for the most part, most of the campuses.
We still get those phone calls. It's like, well, they're fighting.
But most of them, then you run into, what do I do when it's a sub?
we took care of them while they
That's the other one, we're giving them a key, but we're asking for our keys.
Most of you have finished up. I felt like I had the GT group here today, so y'all have Let's start over here with this table and read your, if you will, read your tabletop scenario and tell us what thought processes went into the actions you decided to take.
You want us to get in character while we read, or?
Hey, let's make it fun. Let's make it fun.
All right. It says, you are the administrator in charge. It is 1 hour after the first bell when the secretary tells you that she just took a call about a bomb in the building. She tells you that a young male boy said, "You fuck with me for the last time. I'm going to blow you all up. You ain't going to find it. The clock is ticking." The secretary tells you that she did not recognize the voice and she thought she heard a train in the background. What you know is, it is 2 days before winter break starts. You have the planned school assembly at 10 a.m. and and another school in the district had a bomb threat last week. And so we kind of talked through and we listed our actions. We said, contact first responders, to get that in action immediately.
Kind of, if you will, I'm sorry for interrupting, please forgive me. Kind of tell us what you're gonna do first, because in a situation where there's an emergency, there's a priority probably that you're gonna have to take. So if you can, I should have added that in advance, but kind of prioritize your actions and tell us why.
Okay. So first thing we said was contact first responders to get that moving immediately. Number two was pull the crisis management team together, so all of our principals, assistant principals, anybody that's a part of the team that we use to manage crisis on campus. We said we would go into a lockdown, but while we're working on that lockdown, collect details from the secretary. Contact the other school that had the threat to kind of also get information from there. But upon arrival of the first responders, evacuate if necessary. So those are the steps that we said that we would take. And all of that will happen fairly quickly. So not a whole lot of time in between all of those moves, but again, those are the moves that we said we would take.
All right, thank you. Table 2, spokesperson, please.
I'll pick this up. It says, as a staff member, you're walking the halls of the school when you hear shouting coming from the main office. As you get closer, you see a man arguing with a staff member. Just as you're getting ready to intervene, the man turns and walks away from the office toward the classrooms. You try to find out what he needs, but he ignores you and he keeps walking. What you know is that you're not familiar with the man in question and he doesn't have a visitor badge. So then what are the steps? And we kicked around several things, but really the 3 steps that we walked through was, first thing we're going to do, the step they gave here was activate the intruder. We're going to lock down. At that point, I've got somebody who hasn't responded to me, and I'm not going to follow him a second time. I'm not going to try to get physical at that point. We're going to lock down. We're going to notify our officers, and then the principal actually is the third piece in that. After we have got the lockdown initiated, the officers responding, then we can explain to the principal why we locked his building down. Now, part of the discussion that we had is, administrators are very good about going, I need to lock down. Ruben pointed out the big problem we have is that the first point of contact is typically our office people, our parents, and they're hesitant. So to make sure that we're teaching them, you have the ability and the power to make that call. Don't wait to get permission, make the call and we'll sort it out when we get done. And that seemed to be our consensus. I'm seeing everybody else shake heads also with that. So that was our logic behind it.
Very good. Excellent. Excellent. Table 3.
Yeah, ours was weapon in the classroom. You're the classroom teacher, and it is mid-morning in your second hour class. The class has been given an assignment, and you're grading papers at the desk, which is a no-no. Student A, a student who sits near the back of the classroom, comes to your desk and quietly tells you that student X, who sits across the aisle from her, may have a gun in his book bag. She tells you that when he opened his bag a short time ago, she saw what she thought was something that looked like a gun in his book bag. You know student X has been in trouble with juvenile authorities and recently ran away from home. Student A is usually a reliable student, and the age you normally have in class is absent today. What high school class has an A? So anyway, it was kind of ironic because several of us have had something exactly like this happen earlier this year.
Yeah.
So their possible actions are send student A to the office for help. Well, we didn't like that because then you're pointing exactly who told on that, and even if there wasn't anything there, they could come back later, and now they're a snitch and they're going to get beat down. Send student A back to their seat, not great. Send student X out of the classroom. That's a great idea. Send a kid that you think may have a gun out into the hallway so he knows something up and can do something. You use the intercom? Sure. Talking out loud so everybody can hear what you're saying, probably not a good idea. Do nothing and allow classes to change. That teacher should be fired if they did that. Go get student X's badge, sure, if you want to get shot. Go back and try to observe student X in the bag, no. There's a lot of things on here, but they're all wrong. And what we did is we had contact. We had an app where you could contact, or we have phones in the room where you can do a quiet conversation, and there's a lot of that stuff going back. But what we did is we had an AP come to the room with the liaison officer. The liaison officer stayed outside, out of sight, and the AP came in and told the student, you're needed in the office. Go ahead and gather your things and let's go.
And then when they got outside, out of view of the classroom and out of view of the student, the SRO was there. And they were taken to the office and, went through the bag. And there wasn't anything there, but we felt that was the safest way to do it.
Very good. I did this one yesterday at a training we had, and that was the exact kind of result that I came up with, is to try to separate that kid from that bag in some quiet way. But protect other students. One of the principles we were teaching was LIPS, life safety first. In the order of priority, we want to make sure we save lives. That's our first. How can we ensure that? And so we brainstormed just like you did, and that's what we came up with. I had this happen. I was a middle school principal. I had a campus of 1,350 kids. I don't know if this has ever happened to any of you. But at the end of the day, I was working dismissal, trying to get everybody out there safely. As a principal, worst thing you want to see happen is something happen at the end of the day and have all that drama to deal with. But a young lady walked up to me, a little maybe 6th grader, 7th grader, and said, "Mr. Burley, there's a girl that's bullying me on the bus." And so I told her, because I was in a hurry, trying to get where I wanted to get, go tell Miss Bigelow, who was our Dean of Instruction. Tell Miss Bigelow, and we'll sort this out. And I forgot all about it until the next day. About midday, a little after midday, a student saw me walking and said, "Mr. Burley, this young lady that I had you talk to me has a gun." And I found out what classroom she was in. Made up excuse, like you said, to have her come to the office. But when we searched her bag, she had a loaded .38.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, that could have been catastrophic. It was in a big district that had a great reputation. And my hands were so nervous when I saw that .38. But that young lady had brought her, we had to expel her. Her mom or her grandparents weren't very happy with me because they said, "She came to you and tried to tell you she was being bullied." But under Chapter 37, that's a mandatory removal. And so, but these are great little exercises to do. Let's do the last group. Who's your spokesperson? And then we're going to have lunch next and do our share around while the food is hot.
You are the administrator in charge and are asked to respond to Ms. McCarty's classroom in reference to a missing student. Upon arrival, you told that Denise Luttrell, a student with autistic tendencies, is missing. Denise was allowed to go to the hall, across the hall, to a restroom, but did not return. Ms. McCarty indicates to check the restrooms that Denise was not there. A check of the immediate area turns up Denise's jacket in a trash can nearby the exterior door. And what we looked at this, and then in here it says, you've talked with her mom before, and she usually have to leave a message. Generally, she returns the call about a half hour later. So it also indicates that Denise has always returned before, and Ms. McCarty states that Denise has been gone for 8 to 10 minutes. So usually, for us, we have a radio, so we would, call out on the radio, probably call out a lockout, the area, check cameras from the vicinity where she left the exterior door to find out which direction she went, if she did go out the door. And then depending on, we have a police department, others have local cities that they use, so we contact them and our crisis team on the campus. Also talk to Ms. McCarty to see what Denise was wearing that day. Since her jacket's missing, we don't know what she was wearing. Also, maybe increase the search areas and make sure everybody checks roll in case she appeared in somebody else's classroom, kind of thing.
Very good. Any other thoughts on that? Any others in the group? Have you had a missing student situation? Any other thoughts on what you would do possibly? This is kind of open forum, so we can all chime in. Any other thoughts? All right, very good. These are good to do with your ministry. How many of you, I know many of you are doing tabletops. How many of you are doing tabletops? It's a great exercise for your people. I've got some, if you want to take a copy, please feel free. Let's eat lunch, guys. Lunch is here. You guys get bathrooms, or you can go through this door and get to the restrooms to wash up. But let's go ahead and eat while the food is hot. We'll do our share around. We can eat, and then I'm pretty sure we'll have time to do our share around. and we'll call it a day.
So if y'all did a bond training with your school officers, would you want to do a big group to do them all at once or break it up?
I don't think we have a choice but to break it up. Having shift, unless so
So
many
if
would be
y'all
available.
think about doing it on a day where it's a student holiday, and a work day, for teachers maybe, where we could do it all at once, and they could hear it. It's usually the same thing, but they might hear something a little bit different.
Sure.
I mean,
I was thinking
so
of
how many do y'all have?
Still the same,
for the officer,
Yes.
so 55. And
So
we
that
would-
might,
But I think the difference too, but are you running around the clock? You're doing contract, aren't you?
yeah.
See, because the difference, we're doing contracts, I don't have 24 hours, so like your type of deal, you know, to do a day when it's a new staff development day or a summer day, it's easy, because all your guys are day or mid shift. You know, where they've got guys that are evenings and night shift, so it's a different dynamic for them.
And might be awkward to schedule an evening.
Right. What I was thinking was that, so like I would host one, but I'd be aware of when yours was. So then I could have my guys that could attend, and then the ones that didn't would be then able to go to yours.
Yeah.
And we could,
And we would be happy to do that. I mean, we'll find as many or as little space as you need.
Yeah, because I would just like to support to share it out, that it's gonna be on the west side of town, on this day, it's gonna be in the south side.
Because when we do east side, we, you know, we can cover us, Sheldon, Channelview, and, you know, if Humboldt had the same thing you do of, hey, we need some night shift guys to get a spot, well, you know, that we can cover a lot on that side.
and I think something like this, our chief would make it a requirement, because, you know, some people would be like, hey, well, you are, but it's required.
Yeah, because I was talking to Bill and he said that Matthew, they would give me a breakdown because, okay, so that's our 8 hours, but each hour, how we're gonna break it up, these things are going to say, so if you had to, you know, that hour,
And that would
Well, it's all in your perspective. You talk about the cost of the car. Well, yeah, our guys are, I would have to bet that they're not paying a lot of attention to the explosives, because that's not what is at the forefront right now. But for awareness, it could be great. I think that they would enjoy.
well, what's gonna happen right after, you know, we had that. You know, and I happened to be around, we were talking about it, the issue, they just weren't even aware of what
Right.
and that's what concerned me.
We were past that stuff, I said, I know what fertilizer it is.
Brian's done, we talked about this in another, using
That's the one, that's the thing I told him, we're still in front of these passive presentation.
Because he has one of those suspicious
I have a suspicious package.
things, you know, just any of them.
I've got a box full of different, what was a tennis ball, they cut through it,
Yeah.
batteries, and then and so, I lay it down in the classroom, and they come in, what do y'all see that's suspicious? And it's like tennis ball on the side.
Yeah, because that's all. Yes, we still,
So you-
we still have it, I just wish we could still have athletes.